I'm making a video about the 5 saints to pray to for marriage. So the first saint I'm recommending you pray to for marriage and for your marriage if you're married, or for marriage if you're single, is Saint Rita. Saint Rita had a very difficult marriage. She had a husband that was cruel and treated her poorly, verbally and physically. She had to pray for him a lot during her marriage, and she had a very, very hard marriage and it was not happy. She is actually the patron saint of difficult marriages. So I highly recommend Saint Rita if you're having a difficult marriage or you're having difficulties in your marriage, to pray to her because she knows that struggle. I also recommend reading her life story. She has an incredible story. The way she just turned to God and leaned on God for everything is just truly inspiring, especially through so many hardships of her life. Saint Rita is the first saint I highly recommend to pray for your marriage, especially if you're going through a difficult one. The second saint I highly recommend to pray to for marriage is Saint Monica. So many people know of Saint Monica because she has a very famous saint son, Saint Augustine, who she prayed for his conversion. But she's lesser known for her difficult marriage. She was forced to marry a pagan man who was very cruel to her and was known for having a bad temper. And not only that, she had to live with her mother-in-law, and she had a really difficult relationship with her mother-in-law. But through her piety and her prayers, she not only converted her husband, but she converted her mother-in-law. So if there are those of you out there that are having a hard time with your in-laws or your mother-in-law in particular, then I highly recommend you praying to Saint Monica. She had such a beautiful prayer life. Her prayer life not only converted her husband and her mother-in-law, but she was able to raise a saint because of it. I think she's extremely inspiring for that reason. I will have all these saints' novenas in the description box below so that you can be praying them. These last 3 saints to pray for are actually married couples. There's nothing like having a married couple to pray to when you are having troubles in your marriage, because they were married too and they understand. The first couple that I recommend praying to is the Blessed Mother and Saint Joseph. They had what we could all imagine was a perfect marriage because they were 2 great saints and the Blessed Mother was perfect. I highly recommend praying to them for your marriage and strengthening your marriage and helping you to be a great spouse for your husband or wife. I love praying to Saint Joseph and the Blessed Mother individually, but together is just a beautiful option. You can pray a novena to the Holy Family. February is a great time if you're wondering when to start a novena to the Holy Family. It is anytime you could start a novena to the Holy Family, but February is the month of the Holy Family. If you want to plan your novenas out, February is a really good time to start that novena. The 4 saints that I think you should pray to, and the second married couple that I'm mentioning, is Saint Anne and Saint Joachim. They are the parents of the Blessed Mother. They struggled with infertility for many, many, many years. They became parents actually at an older age. So if you're struggling with infertility, I highly recommend praying to Saint Anne and Saint Joachim for a baby. I love Saint Anne specifically because if you watch my novena for single people, Saint Anne was in there. I prayed to Saint Anne for many, many, many years, for 9 years to be exact, to meet my husband. I am happily married now and have a son. I just love Saint Anne. For that reason, I just feel like she was part of my prayer team to meet my husband. She gave me so much comfort and graces and was my saint buddy during all that time. I really love her. I think she's a wonderful saint to be close to. Her husband, Saint Joachim, they both were such devout people and they had faith in the Lord. During that time in history, infertility was seen as a curse from the Lord, and they were such holy, pious people, and they never blamed the Lord or got discouraged or turned away from him for humiliating them like that, because they had suffered so much judgment by the people in their community for being infertile. Then the Lord blessed them with basically the most special child in the world aside from Jesus to have, and it was the mother of our Lord. And I just love them so much. And just remember that if you are going through infertility, that just like Saint Anne and Saint Joachim, God has a plan for you and has a plan for your family. I highly recommend praying to them to get that comfort that you need, and I will link their novena in the description box below. The final saints that I'm mentioning and married couple that I'm mentioning in this video is St. Louis and Zélie Martin. They were the parents of St. Therese of Lisieux, so they're another saint in this group that raised another saint, which is really, really cool. There's no higher thing you can do than one, to get into heaven, and then two, get your kids into heaven too. They're a great married couple to be praying to. They both got rejected from religious life, which I think is so interesting, that God was calling them to marriage and calling them to marry each other. They were trying to become a nun and a priest, and they got rejected from that and then found each other, and they actually considered having a chaste marriage like Saint Joseph and the Blessed Mother, but their family priest discouraged them from doing that. And aren't we all grateful, because Saint Therese was such a great saint. They ended up having 9 children but lost 4 in the span of 3 years, which is just so tragic for different reasons. So they're great saints to pray to if you have a child with sickness. They're great saints to pray to if you have a lot of children. They're also great saints to pray to if you're trying to raise a saint yourself. I hope this video inspired you to make some new saint friends. If it did, please give this video a big thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel.